Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Peace and blessings to everybody. Welcome to the channel. Before we get started, can you please do me a favor? Hit the like, subscribe button, and the bell notification. It does wonders for the channel over here, inshallah. And also join the conversation in the comment section. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. I'm happy to be here, y'all. I hope anybody watching this video is happy to be here, and I hope anybody who is tuning into this video now has come to a realization with everything that's going on in the world that if you have the opportunity to sit down and just watch a YouTube video in peace, that you are truly blessed and you are truly in a position that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is definitely protecting you, as I feel He has blessed and protected me as I am here comfortable at my home coming to you guys with this video. And I preface the video with that because we're going to be speaking about Sudan here today. The reason I'm speaking about Sudan is because it has been come to my attention a while ago that Sudan does not get any attention within the media space. I know, especially in the Western world. I'm not sure how much coverage it gets within the Middle East. I'm sure it gets coverage within Africa, maybe even in the Far East. But that coverage is not being seen here. The updates are not being seen here. No one here cares. I do think international journalists are in Sudan, so I'm not sure why we don't hear as much about the tragedies and the war and the loss of life, the displacement that is going on in the Sudan right now. I don't know too much about what's going on in the Sudan. That is another reason why I'm doing this video, because, excuse me, I want us to learn together. If you know what's going on in the Sudan and you can comment and educate me about what's going on in the Sudan, please do so. Let me know in the comments. Educate me, educate anybody else who might be listening, and let's just have this conversation. So, without further ado, I'm going to find some information because, like I said, we're learning together. And we're going to do some reading. So I'm going to share my screen shortly here so that y'all can join me. Okay. Juma Mubarak, by the way, to everyone. This is Friday. It's 4 p.m. where I am. Okay. The screen should be sharing here shortly. We're going to get it right. Okay, there we go. Finally. Excuse me if things are moving a little slow. That's just been how things have been working for me thus far. So, all right, now that we have the screen shared, we're going to do some reading. Now, I'm just doing a simple Google search here, and inshallah, we get some informative information about what's going on in Sudan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala free, bless, and help the Sudan and the people of the Sudan. May Allah end this war. So, okay, let's go to Wikipedia. So my search was who's fighting who in the Sudan. And we're going to read a little bit from Wikipedia. This is how easy it is to actually do research too. Now, some people might not find Wikipedia reliable, but for the most part, you can get some information off here. It says a civil war began on the 15th April 2023 between two rival factions of the military government of Sudan. The conflict involved the Sudanese armed forces, the SAF, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, the RSF, commanded by Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, commonly known as Hameti, who also leads the broader Janjaweed coalition. Now, if you don't know what the Janjaweed is, we're going to get to that a little bit later too. We will be speaking on them because they are very important to this story. Several smaller armed groups have also taken part. Fighting has been concentrated in the capital Khartoum, where the conflict began with large-scale battles in the Darfur region. So we're going to look at the two people who are fighting in this war. And I want you guys to keep in mind these two guys right here. This is Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. He is the leader of the official military of Sudan, the SAF. And him and the other guy, let's just go back there so I can show y'all what he looks like. This is Hameti, which is he is known by Mohammed Haddam Dagalo. And he's the interesting guy because, in my opinion, are bad. They're both doing something they shouldn't be doing. They both did something they shouldn't have did. Both of them had ill intentions. You know, when they basically hijacked a revolution in Sudan. Now they're fighting because, you know, power. There has to be a power struggle, right? But I feel like he's the bad guy the most, the true evil, because he has literally committed genocide in Sudan by order of the former. And here he is, Omar al-Bashir. I don't know too much about Mr. al-Bashir. I never heard anything good, but it says he was a Sudanese former military officer and a politician who served as Sudan's head of state under various titles from 1989 until 2019. So he had a long reign. When he was deposed in a coup d'etat, he was subsequently imprisoned, tried, and convicted on multiple corruption charges. So those two guys I showed y'all beforehand, Burhan and Hameti, they seen that a revolution was happening in the country of Sudan. Now, I know a lot of people of that area and a lot of people who study this, they're very familiar with these things. Now, this information that I'm giving is for people who are not familiar with it. But they came together and hijacked the revolution that they seen that was getting ready to oppose and depose Bashir. So they decided to side with the people and they ousted him. They are now fighting because they had first agreed to maintain a civilian rule within the government, right? And bring in a democracy and all of this good stuff that we always hear. But then when it boiled down to it, they wanted to keep power. Hameti was supposed to give up arms, basically, and, incorporate his armed forces into the military. That didn't happen. That was a long shot. When someone has power, not even just financially, when someone has power, as far as like military and weaponry, that's not an easy thing to get them to give up. You feel me? Because there's so much that comes with that, And Hameti is the perfect example of that because, like I said, he committed a genocide. He literally committed a genocide in the Darfur region. And the reason if you ask me the reason for this genocide, it's clearly because Hameti and Omar al-Bashir, who gave him the orders, they're of Arab stock. And the Muslims in the Darfur region are mostly African. And yeah, the Muslims of the Darfur region, they did rise up and start to fight back, of course, but that just led to more slaughter, you know? And this is part of the reason why Omar al-Bashir was ousted. But I'm just confused on why and how the Muslims who were being genocided by Hameti, by the orders of Omar al-Bashir, right? When Hameti and Burhan came into power, right, after the ousting of Bashir, why didn't they rise up then? That's a question. When they seen Hameti in that position, knowing what he was responsible for and what he did in his history, why did they not protest him being in any position of power after Omar Bashir's ousting? Because he was following the commands of Bashir. And can someone please let me know, because like I said, I'm learning just like y'all. Can someone let me know if Burhan was also, was he following orders from Omar al-Bashir too to commit genocide in the Darfur region? I need to know that. It's very important. Okay. Sudan. I want to know how many people have died in Sudan. We're going to try to find that out. And it's really hard because, like I said, we haven't really been getting any news here in the West about like what's really going on. So this is the BBC. And no, I'm not a fan of the BBC, but we will be seeing what they have to say about it. And then they always have these sad pictures of the Muslims and people in war-torn country, things like that, posted on these sites. But what are you doing to help them, BBC, right? If it was up to the BBC, I feel like they would be committing the same atrocities. Like, you know what country the BBC is from. But it says the number of people dying because of the civil war in Sudan is significantly higher. Hold on, let me see when was this? This is from November 14th, 2024. That is how blotted out the news and updates are on what's really going on in Sudan in the West. I scrolled down Google for Sudan and about maybe, this is probably like the fifth one down maybe. And this article is still front page from November 14th, 2024. This is 2025. Like, oh my goodness. So that just goes to show y'all right there, like how much Sudan is being ignored. Not to mention the Congo. There's a lot of African countries where things are going on right now and we're hearing nothing about. So inshallah, if Allah does bless me with the insight, the knowledge, and the ability to do some proper research, we will be covering these things more on my channel. But it says the number of people dying, this is for 2024, the number of people dying because of the civil war in Sudan is significantly higher than previously reported, according to a new study. More than 61,000 people have died in Khartoum State, where the fighting began last year, according to a report by the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine Sudan Research Group. So, in 2024, November 2024, the BBC is telling us in an article that more than 61,000 people have died in Khartoum State. That's just Khartoum State, where majority of the fighting is going on. And this is a year ago. 61,000 people I believe Sudan has a population of like 80 million people. So with the net fighting, so let's just take this number, 61,000 here, from when this report came out, November 2024. And now let's come to the time we're in. How many more dead bodies do you think have hit the ground in Sudan? Not even in just Khartoum State, because you guys have to take into account famine, sickness, crime, not just deaths by war. It's really it's a troubling thing and a sad thing to think about, honestly. And it saddens my heart because when we think about what's going on in Gaza right now, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala free Gaza, free Palestine, and give them victory there, right? When we think about that, we were getting a similar report of about 60,000 people dead. Now we know the toll is higher than that because with all the carnage that the Zionist terrorist state has inflicted on that small strip and on the West Bank, right? We know that the death toll has to be significantly higher. But with the population of Sudan being significantly higher than that of the Palestinian population, it scares me to think of the amount of deaths that are not being reported. How many people have really died? Because they say in Gaza, instead of it being about 61,000 people, about 60, 70, 80,000 people, it has to be about 150, maybe 200,000 people dead, killed by the Zionists. May Allah curse them and torment them in the afterlife. So when I think about that, and then I think about the concept of Sudan, and Gaza only having about 2 million population, Palestine, having about 2 million population. Sudan has 80 million people, majority of whom are Muslims. And as a Shia Muslim, it doesn't matter to me what madhab they are. It doesn't matter to me if they're Sunni. It really doesn't, and it shouldn't. If that's what matters to you, then maybe you need to work on your Islam and gain some empathy for humans and people that you're supposed to call your brothers and sisters. So just think about that. 80 million people, and they're giving us 61,000 people in November of 2024 dead. And we're in September, the end of September 2025. So I shudder to think of what the number could actually be. And I want to ask, why is there no Muslims really talking about Sudan? Why are no Muslims talking about Sudan? Because I could understand why people in the West in general aren't talking about Sudan. Even people of my color, we still live in Jahiliyyah, a lot of my people. So they're not even considering even looking into these things. Some people don't even want to know what's going on with the world. I had a conversation with someone the other day, and they said, "Oh, I'm not in that politics. I don't want to know nothing about it, nothing, period." And I'm like, "You don't want to know anything about the world?" And they really didn't care. They said they want to play video games. That's what they were into. Beyond me, but this is the state of the world. But why aren't the Muslims saying anything? How many people, let me know in the comments, how many people have been displaced in Sudan? We're going to read a little bit of this article and see what it's talking about. This is The Guardian. I've never read anything from The Guardian. To be honest, I don't hear good things about it, but I'm not here for that. I'm not here to judge the publication. I'm here to see what information they can provide, inshallah. This is a picture. It says aid workers pass a refugee baby onto a truck transporting people displaced by the war in Sudan. Now let's see when this came out. This came out Monday, April 14th, 2025. Okay, at least it's from this year. It's a couple months back, but at least it's from this year. It says Sudan's civil war broke out 2 years ago to the day. Since it has killed tens of thousands, uprooted more than 13 million, and created what the International Rescue Committee has described as the biggest humanitarian crisis ever recorded. Now, think about that. People get offended when they hear some of us say that Sudan is a bigger crisis right now in the world than even what's going on in Palestine. Hold up. Palestine is a crisis. It is a tragedy. It is a genocide. We know that. We know what Israel is doing. But the reason some of us say that Sudan is a bigger crisis, simply because, like I was saying earlier, with the population of Sudan, you can get more people killed. What was going on? Way more people displaced. The article just said up to 13 million. And I believe it's more than that, but 13 million people displaced. So, and in saying that Sudan is a bigger crisis, it doesn't mean that give more weight to Sudan or cover Sudan more than you cover Gaza or vice versa. It's just a statement of technical fact, but both situations need to be paid attention to. Both situations need to end. Both situations need to have protests. Both situations need us to give our voices to and speak up on. You know, we can't just hold one situation to a higher standard than the other because of whatever reasons. I don't think that would be just. And as Muslims, we want to be just. It says on April 15th, 2023, fighting breaks out in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, as a bitter struggle for power between the Sudanese military led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the country's de facto ruler, and the paramilitary's Rapid Support Forces, RSF, led by former warlord General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hameti, turns violent. So I guess in the beginning, the RSF had they were gaining some ground within this war. They were, they took the capital. Since then, I think the military has taken the capital back. But this story is bigger because let's see who's aiding each side. And we have to ask, why are these people funding this war? Okay, you can get a quick look. It says, and this is Google AI giving us this. Funding for the ongoing civil war in Sudan comes from a mix of sources, with different countries backing the two primary warring parties, the paramilitary Rapid Support Force, RSF, and the Sudanese Armed Forces, SAF. The illicit gold trade is a major funding source for the RSF. So we're going to stop right there, right? And touch on that. The RSF, part of the other reason why they were doing what they were doing in the Darfur region and other places in Sudan was to gain control over certain minerals, mines, gold and resources within Sudan. As that paramilitary force, the RSF has control over these things, which they then sell and export, which in turn funds Hameti in his operation and also helps his backers, which we're going to get into now. So I feel there's two parts to the reason why Hameti became a brutal killer and purveyor of genocide, right? The mines and the resources in Sudan, right? Especially in the Darfur region. Second, I believe it's racial. We know that Muslims, and we're not going to shy away from the fact that Muslims of Arab descent and background see themselves as having superiority over other Muslims, especially Black and African Muslims. This is something our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam spoke against, but this is something that they still practice to this day. Whether it's overt or covert, it's done. I've experienced it in the masjid. It didn't bother me too much, but I've experienced it. And the first time I brushed it off, but when a certain individual looks at you, he doesn't want to shake your hand, or is giving you a certain type of energy more than one time, then you get to understanding what it is. But either way, it didn't bother me. But that is what's going on, I seen somebody today on TikTok. They said somebody put a post up talking about how a Sayyid, and a Sayyid is basically a Muslim that is descended from the lineage of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, right? How a Sayyid within our Shia community, Sayyids, they really only look to marry Sayyidas and vice versa. There's no, if you're not a Sayyid, good luck getting a Sayyida, and vice versa. That's just how it is. And that's wrong. That's wrong. And someone said, someone was talking about it and how it was wrong. Someone left a comment saying, proud to be of superior Sayyid stock, or proud to be of superior Sayyid lineage. And I find that to be a disgusting comment, because I love Shia Islam. And I know there is no racism within Shia Islam. There's no racism within Islam in general. But there can be racist individuals, no matter what religion or movement you're a part of. I don't let it bother me, is here nor there, but that's just more to touch on some of the reasons why Hameti is doing what he's doing to the Africans in the Darfur region. Because they're African, which he is African, but they're Black African. He's Arab African. And then the resources. So it says, we're talking about who's funding this war, who's backing which side. The key funders of the Rapid Support Force, RFF, Hameti, are the United Arab Emirates, the UAE. The UAE is cited as a primary external backer of the RSF, allegedly provided military support, arms, technology, and information. This support is believed to be funneled through neighboring countries like Chad, Libya, and the Central African Republic, with weapons sometimes disguised as humanitarian aid. The UAE has consistently denied these accusations. Now, the UAE is an interesting country. I'm not a fan, I'll be honest. Why are they funded RSF? Like I said earlier, Hameti gets these resources and he sends them back. If Hameti was overthrown or killed, or the RSF was defeated, those resources probably would no longer go to the UAE, unless they negotiated something, a different agreement with Burhan. And I can assure you they don't want to go through that. But as I'm reading this, I asked myself, why would neighboring countries like Chad and Libya and the Central African Republic, why would they allow shipments of weapons, and information to flow through their countries that can help the RSF and fuel a war within Sudan? Now it says some of these weapons are disguised as humanitarian aid, but I'm pretty sure these countries are not that incompetent. They more than likely know what's going on. The leaders, if anything. Let's move on. It says Russian affiliated Wagner Group, now Africa Group. Okay, Putin. The Russians' paramilitary group has extensive gold mining and smuggling interests in Sudan and has provided weapons and training to the RSF. This activity helps finance both RSF operations and Russian activities elsewhere, including the war in Ukraine. So Russia is also helping the RSF in Hemeti. It's a powerful ally to have. And the reasons stated here are gold mining and smuggling interests in Sudan. I would ask, does anybody who support Hemeti, because I'm sure there's some people online who support Hemeti. I don't support Burhan. I'm just giving an objective, overview and commentary on it. Anybody who supports Hemeti, do you believe that he cares about the country of Sudan? Because if his intention and if his goal is to maintain power so that he may export the resources and gold of the country to other countries, then I would beg that he doesn't care. And more further evidence of that would be for me that he is contributing to the destruction of the country, to death in the country, to the displacement of many in the country. Just a question. Now it says illicit gold trade. The RSF leader Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo Hemeti controls much of Sudan's gold mines. The RSF has funded its military operations by smuggling gold, with the UAE serving it as a major hub for its illicit trade. And the UAE gives them in return weapons, information, things like that. This is very, a lot of things these countries do are very un-Islamic. And as an individual, sometimes I think to myself how hard it is to be a good Muslim in the world that we live in today. But then I remember the things that some of these so-called Muslim leaders do and some of the crimes that these Muslim countries have committed. And I feel a little better. I remember not to despair of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because the things that these Muslim leaders do and have shown to be capable of, do they think that they're going to get into Jannah? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But it's just a question. He says, key funders of the Sunnis Armed Forces, the ASF, Egypt, has historically supported the Sunnis army due to shared interest in border security and Nile River resources. While official support is denied, Egypt has provided military and political backing to the SAF. What are you guys' opinion, brothers and sisters, on Egypt's support for the SAF, the Sunnis Armed Forces? Now it says, and I have to dig further into this to see what Egypt's real intentions are, but it says that they share interests in border security and Nile River resources, which I wouldn't see an issue with that. I don't see that as a nefarious, reason. Those two, they share water resources and they share border security. So I don't really have too much to say about Egypt supporting the SAF right now, because if we want to be technical, even though Burhan is contributing to the destruction of the country, even though he is a bad figure in the way he overthrew the government and, didn't stick to his word, he's technically the de facto leader, and he's technically the leader of he's the leader of the official armed forces of Sudan. The official armed forces of Sudan are fighting under his command. But that's Egypt. Now it says Iran. Resuming a decade-old alliance with Sunni's army, Iran has supplied the SAF with military equipment, including drones. Alhamdulillah. Iran is, from my perspective, a lot of bad things are said about Iran. But Iran does a lot of good things too. And I don't know if they're helping Sudan and the SAF with good intentions, because it doesn't state what they're getting out of the deal. But I'm pretty sure Iran is getting something out of the deal, or would be getting something out of the deal were Burhan to win this conflict. Qatar, the Gulf state, is also a known supporter of the SAF. I would ask a similar question about Qatar as I do with Iran. What are they really getting? Because they're not helping for no reason, y'all. And then we have Saudi Arabia. Isn't this rare? Saudi Arabia and Iran allied in some sort, right? Isn't that's crazy to think about, in helping the SAF, the Sunni armed forces. Now, we can assume they know that they're on the same side in this conflict. But let's see what it says. Though it has hosted peace talks, Saudi Arabia is reported to provide financial and logistical support to the SAF. Now it says, now you see, with 3 out of the 4 supporters of the SAF, it doesn't say what they're getting. It just tells us that they support them, but it doesn't tell us what they're getting in return, which is funny. So with that being said, I would have to do some more research to see exactly what Iran, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia are getting from helping the SAF. But these are things that we are going to look into, inshallah. I just want to make everyone aware. Please look into Sudan. Please look into Sudan, and please pay more attention to things that are going around in the Ummah, besides what's crowded in the news in the Western world right now. All these situations, all these conflicts are important. Let's not forget about the rest of the Ummah. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. We will be continuing the discussion on Sudan. I will be doing some more research, and I will be getting back to you all, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.